Nice to meet you guys. Okay.
Okay, how's everybody feeling? Who presented this morning?
Run extra.
Oh, wow.
Can't see either of you during this thing.
How's everybody feeling?
Good, good.
Please?
Yes, yes. Because I'm not a cop. Oh, okay. So I won't, but I appreciate it.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this breakout session on how I built this. We are very fortunate and excited to have 4 successful social entrepreneurs in the room with us who are going to share their stories. So thank you, everybody. My name is Danielle Campo. I'm a clinical professor of entrepreneurship here at the University of St. Thomas. I'm going to be moderating the panel today. And we're going to go through what I really hope is the nitty-gritty, the good, the bad, the ugly, right, of social entrepreneurship, some of the challenges they've experienced and all of the great things that they've done and the impact that they have made as well. So the way we're going to run this, I have some questions that I'm going to pose to the panelists. We're also then going to save some time at the end for Q&A as well. Okay. So with that, instead of me reading their long biographies, I have asked each of our panelists to prepare a 90-second introduction of themselves and their businesses. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves in the way that they want to introduce themselves to you all. And then we'll go through some of the additional questions that I've had. So Bella, why don't we start with you?
Okay, hi all, I'm Bella Lamb, one of the co-founders of Coconut Whisk. We have been dubbed the vegan Betty Crocker, so we do pancake and cookie mixes. They're all vegan, gluten-free, allergen-friendly, and our mission is to make plant-based inclusive, accessible, and fun.
I'm Michael. I'm the founder of Hippie Feet. We're a Minneapolis-based sock and apparel company that is dedicated to donating 50% of our profits to charities that are working to end youth homelessness. I actually started this company while in school at the University of Wisconsin River Falls, and Danielle here was an advisor of mine and helped get this company off the ground. So we go way back.
Dario Otero, founder and CEO of Youth Lens 360. So we are a video production company that does storytelling for corporate, philanthropic, nonprofit, whatever you name it, small companies, tech companies, whatever. The secret sauce is that we are powered by young people who are trying to figure out their next step after they leave high school, may not be college track, but bring a ton of wealth of knowledge to the video production and storytelling field. So we train them and we put them through a cohort process, and then hopefully we hire them or they get hired by somebody who needs their skill set, or they go back to school. So that's our social part that we do.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jess Hampton. I'm the co-founder, CEO, and general counsel, because we all have to do too many things, right? Of Turn Signal. Turn Signal is an app that anyone can have on their phone. When you're pulled over by the police or when you're in an accident, you press one button and it instantly starts recording the interaction with your front-facing camera, and then video conferences an attorney to be on the screen with you within 15 seconds, 24/7, 365. Someone was pulled over in New York at 2:48 in the AM last night, or this morning, and we had an attorney there in 12 seconds. So that is what we do. And the service is free to anyone that makes under $40,000. So that's our social aspect. And I only applied to 2 schools, UWRF and St. Thomas.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So I ended up being in town.
Excellent. Well, as you can see, some really amazing ideas here. And obviously you're all social entrepreneurs, but very different, a variety, right? What I love about this panel, we have a large variety of different industries. So if you could dig in now, maybe a little bit deeper, Bella, we'll start with you and go down the line again. Tell us a bit more about your inspiration. Was there an aha moment that really kind of set you on this path? Did you always know you wanted to start a social entrepreneurship venture? What was that? Tell us your starting story. What was that inspiration? Bella, why don't we start with you?
Sure, yeah. So I went to school in Mankato. I probably would not be smart enough to get into St. Thomas, but I went to school for public health education and honestly fell into entrepreneurship accidentally. So I was essentially scratching my own itch. I went vegan and gluten-free in my sophomore year of college. And it was after learning about like the food system and how like our choices really have an impact on our environment, right? And like, I was thinking to myself, like, how do I even make my mark, right? A positive impact. And so the idea came from just my own love of baking and cooking plant-based and wanting to bring something to the market that I didn't see at the time. So this was like 5 years ago.
Great.
Yeah.
Michael?
Well, Bella, first of all, congratulations for actually graduating from Mankato. That is a feat in its own right. I started there and I was far too distracted to make it through the 4 years. My inspiration for Hippie Feet came to me in college. I'd always known that I wanted to start a business, but nothing really had been attractive to me at the time because I wanted to attach a purpose to it. I knew that if I was going to go into entrepreneurship, I wanted to have some sort of impact and some sort of way of giving back to my community. I kind of found that passion after I experienced a traumatic brain injury during my senior year of college. I used to be a skateboarder. I no longer do that anymore. It is pretty rough when you fall on concrete. It's a lot softer to fall on water. So I've taken up surfing since then. That head injury, however, forced me to drop out of school for the second time. I was unable to complete my fall semester of classes. I was very lucky to have some amazing advisors and professors who allowed me to take my fall semester of classes online while I finished my spring semester of classes in person. But during this recovery process, I realized how lucky I was to have a support system. Family and friends that were willing to step up and pay for my rent, pay for my bills. My friends would take turns driving to the grocery store to pick up my groceries. They would drive me to my doctor's appointments. And I realized that I was dependent on that support system, and that without that support system, homelessness would have been my most likely outcome. So I felt very, very fortunate and wanted to kind of pay that good fortune forward. So I was inspired to start Hippie Feet, a company that was going to give back to young folks experiencing homelessness that didn't have the support system that I had when they dealt with their greatest moment of adversity.
And so as a young person, I was always entrepreneur spirited, but in the brick and mortar walls of school, I wasn't successful on paper, right? So I graduated out of high school, 1.6 GPA, snuck in college back door because I was an athlete and tried to figure out, this whole thing, like what's my next step of life. At the same time, my friends were starting a rap record label and I couldn't rap. So I was like, well, there's this camera, I'm gonna be the camera guy, right? So back then it was like this. But I just taught myself like how to use the camera and how to be a storyteller, like raw. Got a couple of contracts doing some stuff for some nightclubs, went and did some music videos for some beeline artists. I'll probably say the names, y'all wouldn't know them. And then moving on in life, like I found my way back to education, oddly, because I had a terrible time in school. But I had the opportunity to work here at the High School for Recording Arts in St. Paul, where students were coming in there. You had 40% homeless teen population. You had, so couch hopping, homeless without home. And you had like a lot of students that were coming back getting a second chance. So your average graduation rate was 19 to 20 from high school. And so these students were just getting that second chance, trying to just get out of school. And I brought my camera in and I made it a thing that, if you could get through certain work that you had to do in your classroom, we'll pull the camera out and we'll do some videos for you, do some, stuff for you. And at the time, MySpace, Facebook, all this stuff is starting to really take off and people wanted content online. And so I started teaching young people how to create that content. What happened was State Farm and United Way and some people were having these different grants that they were giving to school and they needed video or photography. And what happened was the young people that I was training were delivering video production services and photography services that they said was beating their in-house videographers, so they were like, who's creating this? You telling me students are doing this? Which students? And I'm like, all of them. Like, this is what they do. They live in this space. So when I started seeing these $200,000, $250,000 grants come in, but I couldn't get it back to the pockets of the youth in a way that would really change their life. I had to like take them on trips or give them a pizza party or, you know what I'm saying? Like, couldn't do what I needed to. I said, man, this is a real business. And I took it outside of the four walls of the school and I hired those same students that were graduating that trying to figure out that next step. And I just kept that for the last 7.5 years now. We've been just growing from that and had amazing opportunities to work with all types of companies. But that was my aha moment when I started seeing those checks and I was like, oh, there's some big money in this. But at the same time, the young people needed to be able to put it in their pockets too.
Well, hard to follow those. So in 2016, if you aren't from Minnesota, or maybe you're too young to remember, Philando Castile tragically lost his life in Falcon Heights, St. Paul, Minnesota. My two co-founders, Dre and Mike, have been best friends since they were 3 years old, and they grew up in that neighborhood. They grew up playing sports with like the extended family. Fast forward 4 years and George Floyd happens, and we all know what that is to our country, but especially this city and state where I've been born and raised for my entire life. So what happened was Andre and Mike actually called me and they said, Jazz, you're the only lawyer we know. We're thinking about building some kind of technology that'll call a lawyer when you're being pulled over. Now, my background is I have a computer science degree from the University of St. Thomas. I then went to law school. When I was in law school, I was a public defender, and then I was a corporate lawyer for 6 or 7 years, and also director of diversity, equity, inclusion. So they called me and I just nerded out for like 30 minutes. I was like, here's how you can build an application. Here's the pass-through liability concerns you have to have. Here's when attorney-client privilege starts. And I just ran, and by the end of this call, and it speaks volumes to Dre and Mike, they said, hey, Jazz, we need you to quit your corporate law job and join us on this journey. And they're like, and we need you to be the CEO, which for co-founders, if you ever had one, or if you have one now, speaks volumes to their ability to like step back after they had been working on this for like 45 days already. And we started. So we started building it 8 months. I quit my corporate job with my wife's permission. And 8 months later, we launched the B2C version of our platform. It's now an employee benefit. And I think on Monday, we're announcing that we're starting to integrate into Google's in-car dashboard systems as well. So it's been great. But when they called me, I was a lawyer in literally like one of the tall buildings right down the road. I had a great view and I was paid well and I loved it. But I thought back to a class that I had in the building across the Skyway at St. Thomas. And it was a personal credo that we had to write in ethical leadership, and it talked about what I wanted to do. And from that, when I was 23 years old, when I graduated law school, I wrote that I wanted to help the African-American community with my law degree. And in it, I explicitly said that I was going to go work in corporate America and pay off my student loans. They're still here. And then I was going to leave to start something. I thought I was going to go to like the Equal Justice Initiative or some kind of work like that, but I've really seen that Turn Signal was the calling, and Dre and Mike actually placed that call. So that's how I sit here today.
Excellent. How inspiring. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Let's get This is so inspiring. So we're going to transition, get a little bit into the nitty gritty, right? I mentioned to the panelists beforehand, I really want to get some of the to the bottom of some of the challenges that entrepreneurs, we know they all experience, but particularly social entrepreneurs, I think have unique challenges to their businesses. And you're all, many of you, right? If you're in the competition and you're starting this, have probably felt this. So I would love for you, and Jess, we'll start with you. You're an app-based company, and we have a number of app-based social entrepreneurship ventures here as well. But why don't you tell us a little bit about, in the early stages, what were some of the biggest challenges you encountered? And then how did you overcome them? What were some strategies or tools or things that you were able to tap into to overcome those? And I think it's great. We have a number of industries. So if you could start and speak to that, some of those challenges.
A lot of challenges that we learned the hard way from. I think the first one was we are not a nonprofit. We are a social entrepreneur focused group, but we're a for-profit entity. So many people were saying, oh, so you're not a nonprofit, so why would I invest in this? It seems like if you're going to do good for the community, we don't understand how you could do it effectively and be a for-profit institution. And at the same time, if you're seeking grants or investments from social entrepreneur groups, they're saying, how do you quantify the impact that you have? And so attacking both of those was the initial thing that we had to do. How do I prove that but for the attorney being in the car, there would have been a physical altercation? How do I prove a negative? How do I prove the tangible changes that are going to happen in the vehicle without proving a negative was step number one. And so we went to start partnering with people to really quantify that work. And we're still working on it today, but that was the first step we did. And the second one is we had to learn how to speak to the fact that we can do good while doing well. I'm on 4 nonprofit boards. I'm part of the grant cycle every year. I'm a part of it all the time. And I just didn't want to start a business that had to be reliant upon those grants. I wanted to build a business that could make money from partners like Google and Blue Cross Blue Shield and the Minnesota Vikings and other folks. And the money could build, it could be the gas in the engine that keeps us going, not relying upon grants. And so figuring out how to do those both in tandem was like the really difficult part in the early building of Turn Signal, which was 2.5 years ago now. And we figured it out a little bit, but every day we're still learning a little bit as well.
Dario, how about you? Some challenges?
Yeah, I share some of the same challenges as Jazz. One of the main ones though was like branding my company with the name Youth does not say that we're going to deliver on services, right? Like you think youth and you're like, oh, we're not going to get our product back. We're not going to, we'll never see this video, right? Like, so I think we had to do a lot of work just in regards to like, how do we position ourselves and where do we position ourselves in this for-profit game when we're talking about all the good we're doing in the community, right? So at first our website was really confusing because you go to our website, of course, we want to show you the passion about all the good things that are happening. But that didn't translate to people that just wanted to buy a service, right? And have you come out and do something and they're exchanging a lot of money for this. At some point they could be like, yeah, it's really great that you're helping young people, but we need our product back. So we did a lot around that branding, a lot around relationship building, to really help people understand what it is that we do. And so those were some of the bigger challenges. Getting down to the nitty gritty too is like, personally, I don't have anybody in my family that was in any financial, financial background. So like, I'm over here year one, like, so what do you mean I pay taxes to, I thought you could just write everything off. Like, I'm writing everything off. Like, bank accounts is merged together, all the mistakes you can make as an entrepreneur. But starting to, split those things, but also at the same time, start to think about why am I trying to do all this stuff if I can hire somebody that's, even better at me. So, there's actually a company here, I think one of the judges, Something Great, Octavia Treadway, she came in and built our infrastructure. Norman's my COO, trained him, because he's not formally from a COO background, but he was the best person I knew that could come in here and just based on his natural talent and skills could help us grow. And so like finding those people in financial literacy and building your back office and HR, like, I'm doing everything wrong HR wise. So like all those things as I'm growing my company, I'm just trying to do what I love. Like, but I had to find those people that would be able to help us do those things at a high level. Because we're a real company.
Yeah, lots of challenges. I think the first challenge that we faced was finding a manufacturer to produce our products. I started this in college, and so I was calling sock manufacturers across the country here because we do make all of our products in the US. And I was saying, hey, I'm a college student. I got some cash that I won from a business model competition, and I'm trying to make socks with you. Click. Like one after another. I think we burned through like 10, 15 manufacturers before we found one that we're like, all right, this is probably our best chance. Instead of calling, we're going to send them an email and let them know that we are showing up tomorrow at their doorsteps and that we are leaving with samples. And we literally, I flew to North Carolina and I came home the next day with samples in hand and our first collection designed and made. So it was literally an issue of being taken seriously to get us started right away. We hadn't found a manufacturer that was willing to take a chance on a couple of college kids trying to start a business. And so we had to actually fly to our manufacturer, meet them in person, kind of a surprise visit just for them to make our products. Other challenges that we faced as we progressed, we had an issue figuring out our media buying efforts up until 2020. We were a full 3.5 years in before we really started seeing a positive ROAS on our media investments or our advertising investments. We were a seasonal business, so we would do really well over the fourth quarter, meaning you'd see that great spike heading into the holiday season, but we were just bleeding cash the rest of the year. And so we knew that we needed to kind of improve our cash flow in the first 3 quarters in order to invest heavily into advertising the fourth quarter of the year. And we decided to explore new products, and we were able to find a non-sock product. It was actually a bracelet item that allowed us to actually generate a positive return on our ad spend through the first few quarters of the year, of which we just reinvested into our inventory levels for socks because they still are our bread and butter. That's how we make our money. But at least we had a positive cash flow going into the fourth quarter, and we're just trying to recoup a loss of profits in the last 3 months of the year. The next challenge after that is iOS 14. If anyone knows what that is, it is a dagger for any e-commerce company. Apple has all your data, and everybody that uses an iPhone shares data willy-nilly with Apple. Apple used to share that data with third-party applications like Facebook and Instagram, where we run our advertisements. They ran an anti-privacy or a privacy campaign to say that, hey, advertisers like Facebook are wrongfully using your data. Meanwhile, Apple is still wrongfully using that data. They just didn't want to give it away for free. And so they stopped giving it away for free. And as soon as that happened, we lost 96% of the data that we use to target our customer from a media buying standpoint. When that happened, we lost a good chunk of our e-commerce business. We were getting a 3 return on every single dollar that we spent. So we'd spend $1, we'd turn it into 3. That was consistent throughout the first 3 quarters of the year. And in the fourth quarter, we'd see 6 return on our ad spend. So, if that were the case, I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere, sipping Mai Tais and like half-assing this company because it was that easy. It is not that easy anymore. And so we needed to figure out a way for us to bring back cash flow so that we could have some funds to, again, invest in the fourth quarter. We still get a good ROAS in the fourth quarter, but we were back to that situation where the first 3 quarters of the year, we were bleeding cash. And so we decided to reinvest in a different revenue stream. And that is the biggest revenue stream of ours today. It's our B2B sales effort. So we are creating custom socks for other organizations. We've actually made some Fowler socks before in the past. And that has been the main function of growth for us following iOS 14. And we're still trying to figure out the media buying thing. We're not getting the 3 ROAS anymore, but we're creeping our way north of 2 again, which is back to break even, and eventually we'll hit profit on that as well. So that is a series of challenges that we've faced.
Great, Bella, how about you?
The question was, what
What are some of the biggest challenges you faced in the early stages, and how did you overcome them?
I feel like, so there's this quote that goes, what you love is what you live for, or what breaks your heart is what you live for. And when I learned about like how the animal industry, the dairy industry is really hurting our planet in a lot of ways, I feel like I went through like an awakening, and I felt like I needed to save the world. I don't know, that was my thinking at the time. And one of the challenges was just figuring out like the roles in our company. So I have a co-founder, Miles. He is life partner and business partner. And I think in the beginning, the hardest part was just figuring out like how to even start a business, right? And how to spend our time wisely. I was in college. I was in an internship. We had no money. We were super busy with classes, but I knew like this was something I really wanted to pursue. And it was just like this, it was just really important to me. And so I think it's important, whatever you want to pursue, it's making sure that you have like this really clear why, and don't be afraid to like get organized and make those moves. That's good. Yeah.
On the topic of time management, you guys are all probably struggling with this too, right? It's tough when you're an entrepreneur to figure out how do you effectively allocate your time, because time is money, time is important. And so I do want to thank you all for generously donating your time, because you're all very, very busy. And I want to recognize how valuable your time is here in front of this audience as well. So thank you for that. Next question I want to transition is this concept of pivoting. You've probably all had some interesting pivots or changes or shifts in your business compared to maybe where you originally thought you were going to start. So I'd love to hear an example of how you pivoted or adapted to changing needs in the market. Maybe it's pandemic related, or maybe there's something else, but if you could describe for us any interesting pivots. Michael, I'll start with you because I know you've had some really interesting pivots. So why don't we start with you, and you can tell us.
Yeah, several pivots. The company that you first start is almost never going to be the company you finish with. So like accept that now. Like if you have an idea and you're in love with it, fall out of love with it because it's going to change. Like there's no question about that. It should change at least, right? I think, humans, we change, we should aspire for change, and same mentality for businesses. The world is changing, and therefore your business should change as well. The pivots that we have made that have been most impactful have primarily revolved around our mission. So when we started the business in 2016, we launched it on a buy one, give one sock donation model. Is everybody familiar with Tom shoes or even Bombas socks, I'd imagine? So same model as Bombas. We were donating socks for every pair that we sold. We did that for 2 years and gave away 20,000 pairs of socks. we were the ones that actually went out and distributed these socks, meaning we were making bulk donations to homeless shelters. We were doing street outreach in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So we had a really great opportunity to engage with the homelessness community in this neighborhood here. In doing so, we started to realize that we were giving socks to some of the same people over and over and over again. Got to a point where you'd show up at a shelter on Friday, say, hey, Joe, how you doing? Here's another pair of socks. We will see you next week. And that experience led us to kind of question that mission. You know, if we're continually giving socks to folks experiencing homelessness and they are forever in need of socks, is that actually an impactful mission? I couldn't answer that with an honest yes. And to intentionally shit on Bombas a little bit, Bombas has given away 100 million pairs of socks. There are 4 million people experiencing homelessness on any given night in this country. They've given well over a dozen pairs of socks to every single person experiencing homelessness in this country. And since Bombas was founded, homelessness has grown in the United States since 2012, since they first got their start. That tells me that that is not a mission-focused business. That is a marketing effort. That mission is marketing. It is not impact-driven. Not to say that people experiencing homelessness don't need socks, but to say that if they're spending all that money to buy socks to give them away, that money could be used in a different fashion and would have a deeper impact. So that's kind of the realization that we had. And our first mission pivot was to go away from the donation model and to instead focus on providing employment opportunities for young folks experiencing homelessness. So we decided to target youth ages 16 to 25 and actually hire them to come work in our warehouse. It was a 6-month job training program with the intention of giving them some skills that they could take on to the next job opportunity. Things like, can you communicate with a manager effectively? Can you work in a group setting? Can you show up on time? Some of the like simple skills that we've all kind of probably taken for granted, but for a lot of the folks that we employed, this was their first job experience, and they really needed to kind of get used to the basics when it came to working in a job or a formal work environment. Now that employment model was far more impactful than giving socks away. We actually saw youth within our programs graduate from the programs, go on to find further employment, pursue education, and get out of homelessness entirely. However, it was less of a percentage than we had hoped for. We decided to do a little bit of an analysis and determine how many folks that we are employing are actually going on and finding a self-sufficient lifestyle and no longer relying on some of these services they're receiving at nonprofits. And it was a pretty small percentage. That didn't quite sit well with us. You know, here we are kind of spending our time trying to help folks get back on their feet. And a lot of these folks were still struggling. So we wanted to know why they were struggling. And we realized it was because they were missing some of their core social services that are a must to get out of homelessness. We defined those services as housing is the obvious one. You need a roof over your head. That is step one. Step two is income. How are you going to sustain the roof over your head and pay other bills in your life? And then step three, the other service is healthcare. And that is both traditional forms of healthcare and healthcare like mental health and substance abuse counseling. What we realized is that the young folks in our program came to us for employment, to another nonprofit to find housing, and to a third nonprofit to find healthcare. It was kind of this like mess of services that they had to string together on their own. They didn't have a one-stop shop necessarily. And so we knew that the best way for us to have an impact was to find a one-stop shop, find an area, find a nonprofit that these young folks could go to where they were going to be able to find housing, healthcare, and employment at a single location. When they had all of their services available to them at that central hub, that is when they had the best chance to transition out of homelessness. So when we realized that, we decided that the best way for us to support that transition was to instead donate half of our profits to nonprofit organizations that are providing all those services. It is a simpler mission for us. It actually freed up a lot of my time. I was no longer moonlighting as a social worker. I was actually able to focus solely on revenue driving activities, which was the direct result was our business grew by 75% the following year, 150% the following year, 75% the year after. And that was a direct correlation to the freed up time that we had. And because our business grew, our profits grew, and we were able to give more money towards these organizations than we would have been able to under our own employment model. Last year alone, we gave $67,000 to nonprofits that are working to end youth homelessness, and we've been able to spread that donation across Minneapolis, Chicago, and Los Angeles as well.
Wow. Lots of pivots.
Lots of it, yeah.
I think that's a good message, right? Nonstop pivots. Like you're never going to be out of the pivot. All right, who is your next? I'll open it up. Anybody have a?
I could dive right in. I'll make it quick. Our probably our biggest pivot was when we hit the pandemic started, right? So like we're a video production company, which means we're gonna come out as a crew, about 4 to 5 people deep, set up lights and all this stuff. And so now you're in a pandemic and people are like, can't come in their office space. You know, they don't want to mix and mingle with people. So it's like our revenue went straight down. People were not marketing anything because they didn't know what was coming. So it's like, how do they market their business if their business is also going down? And then we decided that there was an opportunity to help a foundation. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Bush Foundation. They wanted to continue to have this conference that they were having. And so we pinned together a bunch of different ways to do this conference virtually. And so now there's all these options virtually, but at the time you had Zoom, right? That was it. But they were like, we just don't want to do it on Zoom. We want to make it feel good. So we set up different ways to do interviews before. We shot a documentary using Zoom. We did all sorts of stuff so that when you came to this conference, you could interact with each other on the conference screen, but also you had all of these pre-recorded messages and things that you could interact with as well. And so that pivot right there just showed us like, okay, wait a minute, people are accepting this different way of storytelling. A little bit different than bringing out these high-end cameras and all that stuff, but it's still storytelling. It's still a way to be able to pivot and work with your customer. And so we were able to do that. And then what happened after that was we started looking at space, right? Because we had to figure out how we're going to work together during the pandemic. And so we found a really nice building, the Osborne Building 370 downtown St. Paul. And at the time, nobody was coming in there. Which companies were pulling out. They were saying, we're not coming back to the office. And we actually saw it as a benefit because for so long, it was so expensive to get office space. It took so much, and it actually opened an opportunity and a door up for us to make a relationship with the founder of the building to say, hey, we want to be the first that are going to come back into this building and build a community and be able to make this place different. And by the way, I'm bringing a bunch of young people that have never been in corporate office settings before, but we're going to make sure that when we're in here, we're going to build a community that actually looks like St. Paul. And that's what we did. So we built that relationship with the owner of the building. We built a relationship with the foundations. We were able to deliver on services. And so that was a major pivot for us. And when everything came back around to, you can go back in person, people saw us as a viable option that helped save other, people and the ability to tell their story during the pandemic. So we skyrocketed back up.
Jazz or Paula, what pivots would you like to share?
I can go. Yeah. So we're a for-profit business with a social mission. So we partner with Food for Life Global, which is the world's largest vegan hunger relief. And so we're able to do like a 1-for-1 model. And in the beginning, it changed. So in the beginning, when we started Coconut Whisk, we donated 15% to animal shelters. And I think it's really important to be able to let yourself move and transition like what you did with Hippie Feet. So that's what we did. And as far as our business side, we had pancakes, cookies, muffins, mug cakes, everything when we started. But then we really figured out what products were really moving and what really resonated with our market and our consumers. And so that ended up being our pancakes and cookies. So now we skewed down, and that has allowed us to really grow and perfect our product, which is really important. So those are two pivots that we've made for our business.
I don't know if ours is a pivot as much as like a shoulder turn, but it's when we created the idea and we were building it, we were like, these are the 3 steps we'll take. We'll start with just B2C. Individual people can download the app. Then we'll move and build out a B2B portal so that if you work at Best Buy or Target, we can take your employees, upload them in our system, kick them an email and say, congratulations, you get Turn Signal as a benefit to working here. Here's how you can access it, right? And have the employer pay for it. That was step 2. Step 3 was going to be integrating to all the systems into Uber's app, into vehicles, and all of those things. The pivot that hit us was we saw step 3 coming year 5 or 6. And for a litany of good happenstance and luck and other stuff, it came 3 months ago, which was two years in. And so it was, do we continue building step 2, or was step 2 a building block to get to step 3, or can we do them both at the same time? And we had like a full day founder retreat to discuss what we were going to do. And this was really recent. And so that was a really important pivot for us because a lot of startups die from inundation, not starvation. So we wanted to make sure that we had the right systems in place, the right people in place to execute on both of them well, or only one of them. So that was a pivot point that we had to face as an organization and really contemplate how we were going to go forward.
Excellent. All right, to make sure we have enough time for Q&A, I'm gonna ask one last question, and Bella, we'll start with you and go down the line. And this is really more related to this tension between that social entrepreneurs in particular experience between profit and mission. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how has that tension affected you and your business? How has that tension been maybe exacerbated by some of the stakeholders that you've dealt with when you have some people that may be pushing the profit side and some people that may be pushing the mission side? So how do you stay true to your mission, getting for profit as business venture and balance both of those? So I'd love if you could speak to that.
Yeah. I think it's important since in the beginning, we knew we had to run like a business and operate like a business. And that's like first, that's our first move. But then I think the social mission piece is like an add-on to it. So it's really important to be able to like balance them both. But at the end of the day, it's like you need to make sure that you're being paid and your team members are. So I guess that's my answer to that.
Yeah, balancing mission and profit. When we started this company, we started it with the intention of having a mission, and we've kind of led with the mission. We've always wanted the mission to be the why. It has always been my why. Obviously, I want to make money like everybody does, but I wanted to see my impact in the world first and foremost. Now, that being said, we knew that we couldn't just lean on our mission from our only type of messaging or marketing. We wanted to be able to start a business that could operate without the mission. And I think we've done that. We have a sock company that people buy for the sake of the designs and not just the mission. We've actually done surveys and asked folks, why do you buy our products? And the number one answer is still the mission. Thank God. But the second answer, and this has been consistent on every survey we've ran, is because of the brand, the design of the products, and the quality of the products. And so we know that we could drop the mission and still have a viable business model. But we, again, are leading with the mission. So it's always been, for us, it's always been the mission comes first. Now, balancing profit and the mission has been a challenge. Particularly during our employment program. When you're hiring youth experiencing homelessness, 9 out of 10 folks are worried about where they're going to sleep that night and less worried about how efficient they're going to be at their job. And so there was absolutely some bleeding, if you will, in terms of money spent on that mission. We were, I think a good example I can give is the cost of packaging. It cost us under our previous mission model of the employment program, it cost us about 25 cents to 30 cents to package a single pair of socks. And that was due to the inefficiencies that we had within our employment program. Now, the thought process at the time was, you know what? Inefficiencies are fine. We're trying to do this mission-focused thing. We're trying to help young folks experiencing homelessness by giving them job opportunities, by helping them kind of grow within their own personal careers. It is okay to overpay these folks. Today, with our new profit model of 50 or new mission model of 50% of profits donated, we spend 5 cents to package a pair of socks. That is 20 cents on every single pair that we get back as profit. And because we have a 50% of profits donated model, it's more money that we're able to get away. So looking at the balance between mission and profit, it was actually better for us to, it was a double-edged sword. By focusing more so on profits, we benefited our mission. So that's why I really like the profit or percent of profit donated model, is they work hand in hand. The more profit you build, the better your mission is. So ultimately for us, it is kind of one and the same with the model we're operating under today. If we make more money, we can give more away. And so the mission wins as our company is more profitable.
Yeah, so I'm dyslexic, so I listen to a ton of audiobooks.
Same.
All the time, right?
Accounts, yeah.
All day long. So I'm like, I'm an audiobook genius. And a lot of times you get a lot of information, right? You get a lot of people telling you, if you want to run a business, this and then you gotta get your profit first and all this. So you're hearing all this stuff, and then you're like really looking at your business and being like, well, we're probably like one of maybe the only company that operates like doing what we do. So technically, all this advice that I'm getting is like, if I'm just trying to make profit, that's probably what I would do. But what I'm doing in my mission of my company, I'm doing a lot more than that. So I had to believe in the mission I was given by God and what I do. to be able to say like, you know, same as you, I'm paying probably more than I should out, but that's gonna work out in the end. And so I look at my business like a river flowing into a lake, right? If the river flows in, that's your money coming in. If it starts to pool up and it doesn't move back out, it starts to stink. And so if I'm just making a bunch of profit, I'm only worrying about money and I'm watching that pool grow, but it's not moving and that money isn't moving back out, then it's gonna stink. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm known for only making profit and I'm like the biggest video production company and we're charging the most money, like, but I'm not bringing along the young people in the mission that I have, and I'm not making sure that they're getting paid and getting out their situations that they're in, we're not gonna be successful. And so how this has worked out for us, right? I might pay out and not have the biggest profit margin on a project that we're working on because I'm like, all right, we only need 3 people to come to the shoot, but we're bringing 5 because we want the 2 others to train on the shoot, you know? And so like, yeah, you know, profit margins are not as big. But when I walk into spaces and places and a young person went through there and somebody talked to them and said, we're gonna hire you because we talked to this young person that we said you changed their life. And like when I start to hear those things and they're speaking in rooms that I'm not even in and people are talking about me in space and I'm winning awards for stuff like that, all that profit stuff doesn't matter because it comes back around. And so I can't say that, you know, maybe I have to write a book and be the first to write a book to say like, forget profit. But at the end of the day, like that's honestly social capital and doing a good thing and helping the hearts, you know, and just being a human, right? Like helping humanity is made more profit than I can ever make being the #1 video production company. So.
Yeah, our mission is to protect our rights, de-escalate interactions, get everyone home safely. We focus especially on underrepresented people, people of color, people who are in higher interaction statistically with law enforcement. Of course, people with low income are on this list as well. So we want it free for anyone under $40,000 is our threshold. In order to do that, we have to drive enough profit to allow that to happen. And so to keep mission focused for me is to say, we're always going to provide this. And in order to provide that, our business has to be profitable. We have to run a profitable business so that we can always provide to these people. We have tens of thousands of active users on our platform today, and north of 13,000 of our users are free, unpaid by themselves users, right? And that has to be run by our for-profit work that we're doing. And if it's not run by that, then the whole thing is going to collapse. And so, yes, I have to pay my mortgage and the daycare bills and health insurance. But more importantly, I also have to think of all of those 12,000 plus people that are relying upon this as well. And that really is what keeps us motivated as a business as well.
It's fantastic. Okay, because we have just a couple minutes. Don't all have to answer, but is there any piece of like burning advice within you that you really want to share with these aspiring or maybe successful social entrepreneurs? Like one like burning piece of advice for them?
College is the best damn time to start a business.
Yes.
Like seriously,
Really
I would argue that against anybody. You have a full staff of teachers and advisors that are willing to bend over backwards to see you succeed. That is their job, to see you succeed. So you got one right there waving his hand. So by all means, if you're thinking about starting a business, do it right now. You also don't really have anything to lose. 22, 21 years old. Like, what do you got to your name? Come on, let's be honest. Like, you got nothing. You have nothing to lose. Like, seriously, you got nothing to lose. Like, what's the worst case scenario? You fail and you have to start over in a few years when you are still in your early 20s. There is no risk to this. Like, the worst thing that could happen is you have a bruised ego. Fine, so be it. You'll recover. Egos recover faster than bank accounts, sure, but your bank accounts are probably pretty slim at this point. So start a business in college. That is my best advice right now.
I love it. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, fail and fail fast as you can. That's how you fail forward in this game. But I think I want to say relationships.
That was gonna be.
Yeah, and I think you know it's like if you're building a relationship, a strong relationship, you bypass everything. RFPs, you bypass all this other stuff that people are telling you. Forget marketing, forget all that stuff. If you build a strong relationship, you can create a connection to somebody, and it's not always about building it for your advantage, right? I spent a lot of time building a relationship to help somebody else that now I've got personal phone numbers to a lot of very high power people that make decisions on boards or whatever it is to be able to say, no, use this company, right? But I did it authentically. I didn't just do it to say like, oh, I want to build this relationship because this person is like high powered. No, like I really authentically figured out like how you can help people, what are things that people are trying to accomplish. And I could pretty much say like I could probably contact a lot of Fortune 500 people and, you know, foundation leaders and stuff like from the cell phone. And I don't abuse it, right? Like, and I don't always use it for me, right? I might have that connection and I might pass it because I know that they're doing a good in the community. You know what I'm saying? And so like, I use those relationships very wisely, I don't abuse them, but relationships are key in this game. And, you know, treat the janitor like the CEO. You know, because if you don't do that, I'm telling you, that person ends up being the CEO one day and making a decision on a board somewhere. You'd be like, dang, I treated that dude like trash.
Yep. That's exactly what I was gonna say, word for word. And it's proven to be true for us. We get more business from our relationships that exist in community than we do from our BDRs making cold calls to companies. It's just the fact of the matter.
I would say analysis paralysis is really real. So when I had the idea for Coconut Whiz, I was just zoned in. I wasn't looking at, you know, I mean, we did, you know, competitor research and stuff, but it was like, we knew what we wanted and like, we had a vision and we just like went after it. And so like, don't listen to the noise, really like hone in on what's breaking your heart, what you want to solve, and go out there and solve it.
Awesome. Let's give him a round of applause. The next 10 minutes for questions. I saw your hand first.
All right. I'm curious if any of you have considered becoming B Corp certified, and if so, or whatever decision you made, why you made that decision.
Introduce yourself and tell you say what your venture is.
Sure. My name is Jason. My venture is Hydrophos Solutions. We create filtration technology for wastewater treatment plants, filters out phosphorus, then we resell it to the fertilizer industry, circular economy business. But yeah.
Sounds dope.
Sweet, yeah, phosphorus is great for plants. Nitrogen, so if you can figure that one out. I can answer that. The benefit corporation, the B Corp certification is a nonprofit organization, and it is like a seal of approval, right? You pay money to them, you go through a very rigorous process, but it does open up a network. There are B Corps looking to work with other B Corps, so I do see the benefit there. Do it when you have cash and time. It is an intensive process. We haven't done it ourselves. We register as a B Corp in the state of Minnesota, and we meet the qualifications of the state of Minnesota from having B Corp certification. I've gone over the process and the requirements. We qualify. I just don't want to spend the several hours that it's going to take to actually get that certification. And I could be like growing my business and making more profit to give it away. Now that's my personal take. If I had somebody that I could just say, hey, go do this and tell me when it's done. Sure, I see the value in doing that. But again, we lead with our mission. And I think our mission it speaks louder than the B symbol on our website or packaging.
Yeah, I'm just speaking back right off of that because I literally looked at how much time it takes and what you're dedicated to, what you have to do to be a B Corp and maintain that status. And I'm like Shark Tank. I'm like, once I don't understand it, I'm out. I'm like, yeah, it sounds cool and all. Like, I don't understand it. I'm like, I gotta prove to you. Same thing. This is terrible, but like, I should have the what is the status that I'm supposed to sign up for? I never do for Black business and
It's so much.
Yeah, it's so much. I'm like, bro, can I send you a picture? I'm Black. It's not that simple. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't have that status either. Like, you know, it's terrible. But I mean, like, so many people are like, if you have this status, we can work with you. I'm like, well, you're just gonna have to work with me regardless because I don't have the time. And so I eventually, hopefully, find somebody that can sit there and do that for me. But right now, it's the same thing, man. Scope creep, right? Like, I'm focused right now, like laser focused. And so, like, if I scope creep over here and I spend 6 months trying to do this, I'm not making money. So that's where I'm at.
Same problems. We've taken on investors. You have to send the driver's license number of all the investors. Cause they have to see like in their, so it's a lot. Yeah, like the picture of the driver's license because they want to prove. Right. Yeah. So it's like too much. We actually, maybe it's more, but we did it right from the beginning and maybe that's why we did it. We actually have an adjacent nonprofit. So Cargill has the Cargill Foundation, Turn Signal has the Turn Signal Foundation, run by other folks, a great group of folks. We don't have to do it. I'm not on that board. I'm not a part of that company. We just have a relationship with them. And that was the way we went about it because it got back to our mission. They are the ones who helped us subsidize all the memberships. So it pushed our mission forward without having to do the B Corp aspect.
Genius.
That's another hand. Yes.
So I'm Andrew. I'm running Tadpole. We give educators software to build and operate tutoring programs. I hear the advice that to build a great business, you need an exceptional team. But you know, exceptional people want to work at exceptional companies. And I understand that there's a trajectory to my growth. And I might not be at the stage where I can draw in, you know, world-class talent because I haven't gotten there yet. And so I guess my question to you is like, you know, do you feel like you compromise on talent working at your business while you're kind of getting to that next checkpoint or milestone? Or do you feel like you're uncompromising and you only take people on unless the best people you could possibly find? Like, what's the line between what's pragmatic and like what's the intelligent thing to do in terms of building a good team?
I have a lot on this, but I'll keep it short. I have like a rule of three when we are looking to hire someone. You have to be, let's say it's a sales position. You have to be very great at sales. You have to have an incredible network within the sales space already, or you have to really, really care about our mission. If I hit two of the three of those, I'll hire them all day. If they have a great network and they really love our mission, if they love our mission and are really good at sales, if you hit two of the three of those, you are going to be great in our company. If you hit all three, if I'm holding out for that person, that's ideal. I just brought one on. He managed a $2 billion budget for a United Healthcare subsidiary as the COO. And now he works at Turn Signal in our little office over there with the beer in the fridge. We were able to pull him from that organization. He hit all three, right? Since he hit the third one, which is caring about our mission, he was willing to come. So it's difficult but you can find those people, but it's all about setting expectations around who you're going to bring in from that perspective.
Man, that's it. You know, I asked LinkedIn one time because I got like a network on LinkedIn. I said like, hey, talent or passion, right? Like which one are you hiring? Everybody came back passion because if you have that passion and that drive and like you're talented in that way, hey man, here's ChatGPT. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I need you to be passionate about what we're doing and like really like focus in on like the mission of our company. I take that over talent any day. And I've proven it. And I've made mistakes in hiring for talent and on paper, right? Like, oh, wow, prestigious person, all this stuff. And that was like, I mean, there's like the one person in the office that doesn't talk to anybody, right? It's like, okay, well, there's no bond here for what we're trying to do. You're not caring about the mission of our company. Like, you know what I'm saying? So this is very important to me that I say, like, look for people that are caring, especially if you're a startup, right? Like care about what you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, like there's a lot of people out there like, yo, I'm a corporate survivor. I would love to have more time with my family and come over and work for you, right? And figure out how to work at this startup company rather than trade my like high-end office space and with all the stress and stuff, you know? So you'll find that talent if you have people that are aligned to your mission and vision.
Two things that you're going to make bad hires. Accept it. Like you're gonna hire somebody who's shit at their job and you're gonna blow a bunch of cash on it and kick yourself later. It's gonna happen. Also, talent and talented workers are not just based in the United States. Upwork is my best friend. I freaking love Upwork. It is a fantastic tool. It allows you to access folks from across the globe that are very good at what they do. I have somebody on my sales team who has an MBA. They're more educated than I am, and they're probably better at sales than I am. And I don't have to pay him a United States salary in order to come do this job.
Yeah, so we started the company with a lot of passion and we attract a lot of people who are really passionate about our mission too. And so now we're at a phase of like hiring the talent and finding like fractional CFOs or workers, like that's an option too. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Free work for board members too, if you can pull it off.
Oh, yeah. This is a working board? Yeah.
What else? Questions?
There's one more out there.
There was one more, don't be shy.
this is also part, right? Like, don't be scared to ask these questions. Trust me, we don't know everything either. Like, you won't either. So,
Smartest people ask the most questions.
damn, so.
Certainly that.
Yes.
Uh,
Do have a second question. So, say you're in a position where you're trying to get your first customer or sign a contract or whatever it is. I think there is a tendency or a temptation to want to give away your services at a discounted price or for free just to get that first deal in the door. But I think on the other end of that, you want to demonstrate that people have the capacity to actually pay for the value that you're offering and that they want to. So what do you do there? Do you feel like you should wait until you feel like you found the customer set that's willing to pay full price? Or do you think just for the sake of traction, get people in the door and then you can charge more down the line?
Get people in the door, but don't sacrifice your bottom line in order to do so. Customer testimonials are worth their weight in gold, right? So if you can get a customer to come on board with you and purchase your product at a discounted rate, you can say, hey, I want a really good testimonial from you, maybe referrals to other businesses. That is where you will get that money back. That would probably be my best advice there. I'm also probably not the best person to ask because my prices get a little bit cheaper towards the end of the month in the sales cycle. Like, if I gotta hit my numbers and I'm like looking like falling short, yeah, that price will dip a little bit.
Any lawyer that gives you a yes or no answer is a bad lawyer. So let me start.